A warm welcome to the Red Bull Ring in Austria for the second race this weekend of the Eurocup Formula Renault 2 litre. Another 25-minute plus one lap affair, and it was a win yesterday for Lando Norris, but we were treated to an almighty fight at the head of the order. 2 place changes per lap pretty much between Lando Norris and Max de Forny. It looked at one point as if Max would only finish third as Ferdinand Habsburg got involved as well, but in the end it was a win for Lando Norris from the Belgian de Forny, and Habsburg making do with third position. Not quite his best result of the year, but nevertheless it ranks pretty high up there. Ferdinand Habsburg of the Habsburg dynasty, originating from Salzburg, so very much at his local track, and clearly loves this place, and the fact that it's been resurfaced earlier on this year. There is Will Palmer, a race to forget yesterday, but his father Jonathan is here this weekend. We're on a non-Grand Prix weekend, of course, with Hungaroring to come in 7 days' time, so Jolyon Palmer may well be here as well to support his younger brother. But it's Harrison Scott who took pole position early doors this morning, an 8:45 qualifying session, and the race is due off here at just before 11:30 local time. Nicolas Lapierre from Dragon Speed Racing here as part of his European Le Mans Series duties, but he's having a look around at the Formula Renault category. Max de Forny will start from third position, and Lando Norris did struggle in the qualifying session a little bit earlier on today, so he'll have some work to do. At one point it looked like he might have to come up from 8th place, but qualifying was better than that. There's an idea of where we are in the season then. Already had visits to Spain, to Italy, a one-off race at the Monaco Grand Prix around the streets of the Principality in support of that event, and then 3 races at Monza at the start of the month, so a relatively quick turnaround to come here to Red Bull just 2 weeks on, and just the 2 races in support of the ELMS. My name's Johnny Palmer, I'm joined by Graham Goodwin to my right of dailysportscar.com, and we were commenting as a single-seater race in any category, really. That was a tremendous thing to witness yesterday, wasn't it? Between some young drivers, but clearly some very mature heads on young shoulders, because it was clean, but it was fascinating to watch.
Clean, aggressive, an absolute example to young drivers as to how it can be done, and I'm afraid all too often isn't. I think, hands down, one of the best single-seater races I've seen in recent years. Absolutely wonderful to watch that. And a great response from the crowds. The main grandstands, I gather, not open, so the crowd's being encouraged to actually occupy the stands around turn 1, turn 2.
So Lando Norris starts from the front row, but was denied pole position by his fellow Brit, Harrison Scott, who harks from Essex in the UK, 20 years old, and his car prepared by AVF by Adrian Valles' Spanish team. Harrison Scott has raced in some British Formula 3 Championship this year. He did the Winter Series in what was F4 at the time last October, and has also been in the MSA Formula for the last couple of years as well. But really from last year started to venture to further places further afield from the UK, elsewhere in Europe, and it has meant a successful run for him. Starts from pole position alongside Lando Norris. We'll get some news now from the grid, which is starting to get a little bit lighter of people.
Harrison's got a tremendous lap at the end of qualifying to grab pole position for race 2 at the Red Bull Ring. How was it behind the wheel?
Yeah, it was really good, to be honest. The car felt mega all qualifying session. To grip straight away, even in the first run on the old tyres, the car was really good. So I knew that if the car was handling right, I just had to try and put the lap together, and yeah, fortunately I did, and it was a clean lap, and just really thankful for all the hard work that's gone into it this weekend, because Friday we cracked the tub, so Saturday morning we had to put a new tub down, and yeah, the guys have had late nights, so this is for them as well.
Thank you very much, Harrison.
So that interview obviously done a little while ago, because Harrison is now strapped into the car, as I say, alongside Lando Norris. Max de Forny is in the blue car with the silver engine cover, and then it's Will Palmer, one of the Tech 1 cars, just tucked in behind. But Jehanda Ruvala, who started from the front row yesterday, is going to have to come through the order. He's back on the 4th row there with a minute to go, and the skies have, well, had quite a bit of heavy cloud in them all week, Graham. We haven't seen any rain for sessions as such yet, but it's looking threatening for the next half an hour or so. Clearly all the cars on slick tyres at the moment, but if it does start to rain, that could mean it's a very interesting race indeed.
It's going to go one of either ways, isn't it? It has been very cloudy for the last day and a half here, after a couple of days of glorious sunshine here at the Red Bull Ring. But either that sunshine's going to break through with an improvement in weather predicted from here on in. We could get a shower. I don't think it's going to be a significant one if we do get that. It doesn't look imminent. It's certainly quite steamy outside. The car's about to get underway.
By the way, it's Lando Norris who continues to lead the points. He did so coming into these two races at Red Bull Ring, and after yesterday's victory extends his lead from 22.5 points, because there were only half points awarded in Monaco after that very wet weather race. 22.5 points to now 29.5 points, back to Max Deforny. So 144 plays 114.5. Dorian Boccolacci had a race to forget yesterday. He did score 1 point for 10th position, and that means he's now level on points with the pole position car for this race, Harrison Scott. They're both tied for 3rd position in the championship on 96 points, but Boccolacci trailed Norris coming to Austria by 24. That gap's now extended to 48 points, so Dorian Boccolacci will be hoping to do a little better today from 5th position. Harrison Scott, though, as we say, taking pole at 128.1 alongside fellow Brit Lando Norris. Max Deforny and Will Palmer start from the 3rd row, and as I say, Jehan Daruvala with work to do from 7th position, starting alongside Frenchman Gabriel Aubry. Ferdinand Habsburg, a 3rd place finish yesterday for him, starts 9th today. Alexis Corneve just alongside, and James Allen from Perth, Australia. Julian Falqueiro, 13th position alongside Russian Robert Schwartzman, one of 3 Josef Kaufmann Racing cars here this weekend. It's a French-Brazilian 8th row. And Alessandro Perullo sadly didn't get to the end yesterday for Techno Race. That is very much a one-car team, though, run by his uncle Antonio. All the family money going in to get Alessandro to a good position in this race. But stark contrasts, really, to the amount of money behind outfits like Josef Kaufmann Racing, Fortec and Tech 1. The Force India liveried car, number 1, Jehan Daruvala, just working its way through shot. He is a Force India junior driver, with the hope of reaching Formula 1 one day, and I'm sure all the drivers in this field share that ambition. But it's interesting looking back to previous champions of this series, Graham. Many of them have actually found their way into long distance racing now, endurance racing. Philippe Albuquerque, Brendan Hartley, current world champion.
Existing world champion, absolutely. So both this championship feeding through both to the highest levels in several FIA world championships. Factory drivers in sports cars, Formula 1 drivers, this has been the place to be, and remains to be seen exactly what the plan is for what is, I have to say, a very long-standing and has been a very valuable stepping stone in world motorsport. I do get the feeling that with Renault now, of course, very active in Formula 1, they're taking another look at where their stepping stones towards that aim for a young driver might lie, and there's no sign whatsoever of any lack of investment coming forward to continue to feed talent into this series.
It's also the case that all of these drivers are not just involved in the Eurocup Formula Renault 2 Litre, but they also take part in the slightly more regionalised championship, the Formula Renault Northern European Championship. So when they're not racing in this part of Formula Renault, they're very often busy elsewhere in Europe. Haven't been to Red Bull Ring so far, but there are 1 or 2 repeats when you take the 2 calendars side by side. We'll concentrate, though, on the latest round here from Red Bull Ring in Austria, as the 5 red lights are illuminated now. And who will get the best starts between Harrison Scott and Lando Norris? Well, Lando given very little choice but to just tuck into line behind Harrison Scott. Max Deforny fends off Will Palmer for 3rd position, but Will's going to go deep into the corner around the outside maybe of the R-Ace GP car. No, can't quite make that stick, but Lando Norris is well and truly stuck to the rear gearbox there of Harrison Scott as they work their way up from turn 1 to 2 and into another hard braking area.
That goes through on the outside. He's not got the line for that turn, Johnny, but tucks in again. It's almost a carbon copy for that first couple of turns of yesterday, apart from Harrison Scott being in front.
That's right.
Lando Norris looking to get by into the lead now, and does so.
What we found yesterday was Max Deforny was far more concerned about the cars behind him initially and had to make up a gap of something like 3 seconds to catch Lando Norris. He did it very quickly indeed. That gap is starting to emerge a little bit between 2nd and 3rd, with Max Deforny his hands full defending from Will Palmer. So 3 Brits in the top 4 at the moment, slipping through there into 5th position, and racing with Jehan Daruvala is Henri Chaves, the Portuguese driver, the other AVF car. Shavs with a great start right behind Will Palmer. Daruvala's gained a spot as well, and then it's Dorian Boccolacci started 5th. He's down in 7th. Now, is this a problem that he has with the Red Bull Ring track, or maybe a setup issue? The Tech 1 car though is going to go around the outside of Johan Daruvala. He can't make that stick, so stays in 7th position.
So lead 2 at the moment, looking to try to gap De Forny, but it's De Forny that's been the quickest through the first part of this lap. Under 1.2 seconds separates the top 3. If anybody's making a getaway, it is the leader, Harrison Scott, beginning to gap Lando Norris.
The livery of Racing Steps Foundation there, sneaking through. That might have been James Allen being overtaken with the side-by-side action again. Dorian Boccolacci making the move on Johan Daruvala, and that does firm up the position for Tech 1 as Daruvala is squarely on the brakes there. The front right locked up, he's up and over the curb as well. That will have unsettled the car, and Ferdinand Habsburg is right behind the number 62 car, ready to take those places away. So it's nose to tail here between Boccolacci and Daruvala. That's for 6th and 7th positions. It's busy behind them as well. The leaders, meanwhile, are trying to edge away, but can't quite do it. In fact, Max De Forny looks like he's making the jump now from Will Palmer through to Lando Norris, although it was Lando who was quickest through the first sector on this lap.
Daruvala, after that little incident there, was signalling with the medium of international hand gestures towards his rival. I think the message there was get on with it. We need not to let these guys get away. He thinks he's got the quicker car. He needs to prove it.
It's Gabriel Aubry there in the white and purple car, again in the thick of action with a Fortec car right behind. So there is the number 12 car of Aubry, and he's got around him Romanov. As the quick lap times come in again, the top 3 are through to complete lap 2. New fastest lap of the race is Harrison Scott from Lando Norris and Max De Forny in the blue car, then Will Palmer, and his lap was slower than the 3 ahead, so there's a gap of about 7/10 that's opened up now between the 4th place car of Will Palmer. Meanwhile behind, this is Henrik Schaafs being put under pressure by Dorian Boccolacci, and the Frenchman makes easy work of that. Make sure now he defends into turn 2, but Boccolacci should be up to 5th position at turn 2 again, which is where he started. So unfortunately for him, the first portion of the race has been losing a couple of places, gaining them back. Now can he start to make strides towards Will Palmer in 4th?
Because there is now a gap between the top 4 and this chasing pack. Boccolacci, the man looking most likely to close it at the moment. Good, and what looked like a pretty easy move there, and is beginning to move away.
Into the left-hander at Pirelli goes the race leader. 2nd position is Lando Norris in the Josef Kaufmann Racing livery, the yellow helmet of Lando Norris, and he's being caught, no doubt about it, by Max De Forny here. Over the crest he goes, 2nd generation racer by the way, Max De Forny, father Didier De Forny, with experience in Chrysler Vipers in the FIA GT Championship in 2001 I think it was, a part-time promoter of the Belgian Grand Prix. But Max has been racing Formula Renault for a couple of seasons now, and really impressed in yesterday's race. That's the delivery of SMP Racing rather than Racing Steps Foundation, of course. And that's a slow car, sadly. Romanov trundling his way back to the pits, it would appear, as the top 3 work their way out of turn 1. Will Palmer, is he being caught by Boccolacci? No, actually Palmer's up the pace a bit and is matching now the speed of Harrison Scott, Lando Norris and Max De Forny. Unfortunately matching them will not bring that gap down though. He needs to up the pace even further if he can. There was a door open briefly there by Lando Norris, something he did a lot yesterday at turn 2, actually allowing Max De Forny through at times, saving the knowledge that he could probably overtake him again at turn 3.
And that's exactly what happened, and we are now going to get a train of 5 because Boccolacci is closing that gap to Will Palmer ahead. There's again a battle now for 6th place.
Yeah,
Chavez under attack now for Daruvala,
with Ferdinand Habsburg not very far away, charged up I'm sure by his podium result yesterday. Daruvala leaving it late on the brakes, deciding not to go for a gap that was certainly closing, and Ferdinand Habsburg now sees an opportunity as Daruvala didn't get the best exit speed out of Pirelli corner. So he's going to be under pressure till the end of the lap here, as Daruvala will be keeping an eye on those mirrors. Habsburg trying to the left and to the right, and a very different line being utilised there by Alexei Korneev, who is the 3rd of the rookies in the order at the moment. The top 2 rookies, Lando Norris and Will Palmer, mainly because they're in the first season of Eurocup Formula Renault 2 litre.
Fastest lap of the race this time around goes to Boccolacci, 1:29.542 now, as he continues to close the gap, under a second back now from Will Palmer. And that battle for fourth is joined.
Alexis Corny, James Allen and Sacha Fenestraz, winner in Monaco, worked their way through turn number 1 then, up the hill. So 2 of those are rookies. James Allen, slightly more experienced, travels from Australia to take part in these rounds from Perth. Sadly, the number 3 car of Robert Schwartzman looks to be out of the race, with Schwartzman now bailing out of the car. Over the rise out of Remus corner and on towards Rauch. Still a very fast portion of the circuit. You can slipstream in the single-seaters and gain a bit of ground. As late on the brakes there, James Allen.
Almost makes it stick, not quite. Another quarter of the car's length there, he would have had enough.
Need to be very careful not to clonk wheels, not to interlock wheels in these cars. They will go skyward very quickly indeed if that happens, as the rear wheel there of the Tech 1 car gets very close to the front right of James Allen. That was Fenestraz working his way through.
And that was Will Palmer almost taking a place, but then eventually losing one, finding himself out of position, and maybe 2 places.
Now James Allen under pressure from another Tech 1 car, Hugo de Sadalier. Not to mention him an awful lot today, but he was in action yesterday, the Swiss.
And James Allen toughs it out, retains that place. Comes out on that lap, much the loser. Fastest lap now goes to the leader, Harrison Scott, beginning to make good his escape, 3/10 up this time on Lando Norris on that lap. That extends the gap to almost 1.2 seconds. Fastest lap now, a 1:29.351, goes to the Brit, Harrison Scott.
Hugo de Sadalier did make the move stick for 11th position, and I'm afraid as a result of James Allen not getting a good exit out of turn 1, he's lost a further 3 places there. So de Sadalier about to be overtaken by Gabriel Aubry in the purple and white car. Meanwhile, this is the battle for 2nd position as Lando Norris, it could be yesterday again, Max de Forny charging his way up the inside at Rauch corner, so not for the race lead as it was yesterday, but Max de Forny, can he offer a bit more pace than Lando Norris has so far now that he's into some clean air and start to chase down Harrison Scott? That move has stuck by the looks of things for the Belgian. Lando Norris is still close enough to repay the favour, maybe at the end of the lap, but away in the distance there is Harrison Scott. A trouble-free run for him. Things might be about to change now that Max de Forny is free of Lando Norris.
And if Max de Forny can find his way up to and with Harrison Scott, then that we all of a sudden then get into a very significant position for the championship standings. De Forny needs to take places and points off Lando Norris. He's done it there, up into 2nd. Now he wants the additional 7 points that he'd get for the win.
And a man on a charge is Dorian Boccolacci in 5th position, setting the fastest lap of the race. That's 7/10 of a second quicker than Will Palmer. And that is Boccolacci right with, actually, Palmer now. The second son of Jonathan Palmer, former Grand Prix driver, of course, and former Formula 1 commentator. And Will Palmer now not very far off the back of Lando Norris, but the bigger concern is a charging Boccolacci, Frenchman. Almost 3 abreast here,
He is 3 abreast, and almost like a parade lap, but not at those speeds.
It
just about made it, but again, James, it just does not seem to have the punch out the corners, does he?
No, that's Perullo, by the way, in the 35 car, swinging around the outside. He is, where in the rookie standings so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th of the rookies, and he was trying to make a move there for 16th position.
That was Will Palmer, I think, losing a place. He certainly got very squirrely into the gravel with the left rear wheel.
Okay, so Boccolacci was right on his tail.
Has taken the place, he's up into 4th position.
He will have been the 1-2 benefit, and now Will Palmer will be under pressure from Henry Chavez. So heading into Ringt corner goes the Palmer-Chavez battle, and he just clipped the curb through that final corner, Red Bull Mobile, but you can see the top 6 there, all in the same shot. Harrison Scott working his way up this steep climb towards turn 1. The climb continues after that, but that gap, 1st to 2nd, definitely coming down, Graham.
It's come down by 4/10 of a second, courtesy of another fastest lap of the race for Max de Forny now. 2.2 seconds is the gap. Harrison Scott is soon going to be under real pressure. 14 minutes plus that additional lap remain.
And of course Lando Norris will be trying to make sure Max takes him with him to Harrison Scott. Not looking likely at the moment. The difference in lap times at the end of lap 7, 4/10 of a second in the favour of Max Deforny. Will Palmer, as we've mentioned, has slipped to 5th and is now under pressure from Chavs as Dorian Boccolacci has found his groove for the first time this weekend. A tough old race yesterday, just a point for 10th position, but he's running now in 4th and looks to have at least equal pace with the 3 cars up ahead of him.
This, I think, is going to be a 4-car battle for the race win and the podium positions, Johnny, because the race here of the 19 drivers here are in the top 4 positions right now. Will Palmer seems to have lost a bit of momentum. There's going to be trouble there for the 35 car.
It's Alessandro Perullo, yeah, with reverse gear necessary. So we saw him gain the place at Rima's corner. And let's see what happened to Perullo. It was turn 3 and there was contact, was there? Couldn't quite tell in the dust there, but another car involved certainly. And Perullo having to spin the car around as quickly as he can.
It drops the rear of the field as a result of that, I'm afraid.
Has the gap come down 1st to 2nd? Yes, it has, by just over a 10th. So Max Deforny not improving his lap time, but nevertheless a 1:29 is very competitive.
The quickest of the 4 is Boccolacci in 4th position, takes another 3/10 out of Lando Norris. And you know, with these battles developing, Johnny, this is going to make the point standings very interesting indeed after this second race here at the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, bear in mind at the start of this race Lando Norris led the championship. He's running 3rd in this one. Max Deforny 2nd in the championship and 2nd in the race. Dorian Boccolacci 3rd in the championship, 4th in the race, but the race leader 4th in the championship and set to gain the most points.
Exactly so, and the 3 guys behind Lando Norris in the championship are the ones that look most likely at the moment to gain ground on him. 2 ahead of him, 1 behind him and putting him under pressure.
Max Deforny, as we know, with the fastest lap that happened a little while ago, 1:29.106, as Max Deforny goes quicker than anybody through sector 2 this time.
Gap under 2 seconds now for the lead.
Jehan Daruvala still scrapping away with Ferdinand Habsburg, by the way. This is a replay of James Allen on the left and Alessandro Perullo on the right, and in the middle I think was Julian Falqueiro. So they just about got through, but for a moment it looked like they might not. That was Dorian Boccolacci making the move on Will Palmer. As Graham described, rear left wheel dipped into the gravel trap. That will not have helped traction out of the corner, and Will Palmer's now fallen back into the clutches of Enrique Chavs, the Portuguese driver, and the second of the AVF cars to be in the top 6, because his teammate Harrison Scott leads the race by 1.9 seconds. That's come down again by 2/10 because of a new fastest lap for Deforny.
And the other gap coming down is that gap between 3rd and 4th position. Lando Norris is being reeled in by Boccolacci. Around, was just under half a second now, the gap for 3rd position.
10 minutes and 45 seconds to go, plus an extra lap once we get to 0. And Lando Norris to Dorian Boccolacci is starting to come down again. 3/10 of a second gain by the Frenchman. Meanwhile, further down the order, there is Falqueiro battling with Finlay Hutchison for 16th position. And that's for 6th place in the rookie element of the race. Everyone in their first season of Eurocup Formula Renault is automatically a rookie, and there are prizes for that as well in a separate championship. Max Deforny, we know, is in a real quick phase of the race. He's gone even quicker through sector 2, so could be on course for another fastest lap here, working his way through the final corner on his own now, because he's bridging this gap between Lando Norris and Harrison Scott, the race leader. Harrison Scott's gone well though through that final sector. In the end, there's not a great deal of difference between them, but Max Deforny did gain a smidge.
Gained a 10th and did the second fastest lap of the race, just 0.06 of a second outside the mark he set last time around. So we continue to watch the battle here between Lando Norris in 3rd position, and now defending that 3rd position from the increasingly close attention to Dario Boccolacci. 0.3 of a second is now the gap. We saw the young Englishman, 16 years old Lando, mount a fantastic defensive run yesterday and attacked when he needed to attack to take the win. It's a very different look to the race now.
Bruno Baptista is battling with Vasily Romanov in the Fortec colours. Vasily from Russia, and he was trying to get a place there for 13th position from Bruno Baptista. Didn't quite work out, and tucked in behind them is the Aussie James Allen. So James has had a busy race. It looks like whatever issue he had leaving corners like turns 1 and 2 seems to have gone away, at least for the moment. Here's Lando Norris though, continually being caught by Dorian Boccolacci. Remember, Lando Norris is ahead of Boccolacci in the point standings, but because of only 1 point being scored by the Frenchman yesterday, he's lost a lot of ground. If his target, as I'm sure it is the championship leader, to try and close in Lando on 144, Boccolacci on 96, needs to get by Lando if at all possible. Got 8.5 minutes to do it, and Boccolacci that time through was, well, almost exactly the same lap time as Lando Norris.
Max Deforny though, it closes the gap even further, now 1.5 seconds the gap, and that comes courtesy of a first, well, it's the 128.794, and both the lead drivers dip into the 128s for the first time. Harrison Scott's 128.9, but even that bettered by the chasing Max Deforny. 1.4 seconds now the gap, with just under 8 minutes plus that lap to go.
Still very close between Will Palmer and Enric Chavs in the 5th and 6th place fight. Jahan Daruvala is 7th and 8th place for Ferdinand Habsburg, ahead of Alexis Corneve and Sacha Fenestraz. Out of Rauch corner goes the fight though for 3rd position. Lando Norris, top rookie, at the moment able to fend off the attentions of Dorian Boccolacci. He's been able to catch Lando reasonably easily, but now once he's in the dirty air of Lando Norris, that behaviour of the car will be altering slightly.
Lando looking more comfortable in this phase of the race. It has to be said that he has, perhaps in the last 5-10 minutes, beginning to take a little bit of time out in that second sector where he was very, very fast yesterday. Lead gap, meanwhile, continues to come down. It's been a drive from the front from Harrison Scott, but he's beginning to come under pressure.
Yep, so it's closed again by Max Deforny by 0.3 of a second, despite a really good sector time through the last sector of lap 12. So Harrison Scott good through there. He's maybe struggling though through the first couple of sectors. That's where Max Deforny can catch him. They set near identical times through sector 1 this time around though. Meanwhile, this is the fight for 3rd position, and Lando Norris not feeling the need to defend into Remus corner, despite Dorian Boccolacci at close quarters. Running wide in the background there, Will Palmer, and that gifts 5th position to Chavs. So Will Palmer a little bit deep into Remus corner. He will have the slipstream though on the Portuguese driver, and Enric needing to defend into Rauch corner. Here comes Will Palmer on the outside. The wheels are level, but Chavs says no you don't. Stays in 6th position does Will Palmer after a very slight error. 6 minutes to go plus a lap. Meanwhile, it's 1.1 seconds between Harrison Scott and Max Deforny, and Lando Norris a little bit quicker through sector 2 than Dorian Boccolacci.
Interesting phase of the race here for Boccolacci. He needs to get by Norris, but he needs most of all to finish with good points after the disaster yesterday in points terms for the championship contender. Boccolacci, he needs to get by the championship leader Lando Norris, but needs to do that with limited risk. Cannot afford an incident that costs him a finish here.
Absolutely, points for 4th position, far better than he managed yesterday. You get 12 points for 4th, you get 15 points for 3rd, so the trade in there, is it really worth a big incident for the sake of 3 points when you need to score well across both races each weekend? On the other hand, he is close enough to mount a challenge. Lando Norris may well let him through. This is what he did with Max Deforny yesterday, and then immediately gets him back on the outside, because Lando Norris's route through Remus is so much superior to the Frenchman Boccolacci.
And that shows the composure we saw yesterday, doesn't it, from Lando Norris? Quite happy to let someone take a lunge. He keeps out of trouble, gets the more optimum line, gets a better traction out the corner, retakes the position. It was almost like the two of them were playing with each other yesterday, him and Norris and Deforny. Gripping stuff to watch, but it will be frustrating from the point of view of Boccolacci.
So here's that moment again, then Boccolacci coming from a long way back, struggled to get the car stopped, but then hit the bump there on the inside of Remus corner. Many of the single-seater drivers were telling me on Friday that actually the better line through Remus is about a car width off the apex. It means it's slightly level, more level there, and the rear wheels grip better, and that was a fine example of it. Lando Norris getting better traction out of turn 2. and able to make the move very quickly back to third position. In the background, Enric Schavs is now pulling away from Will Palmer for fifth place, and Palmer may be in danger of slipping towards Johan de Reuveler. No, not quite, because the Portuguese and British battle still reasonably close for fifth place.
Absolutely. Still battles for positions up and down the field. Watch here, is that the number 5 car? It is.
Yep, so Russian driver, although the car is prepped by British squad, Fortec Motorsports, overseen as always by Richard Dutton, and this time looks like Vasily has got a good run on the car ahead of him. So Vasily Romanov with Bruno Baptista, the Brazilian driver, up ahead. James Allen is in the mix as well in the blue car, and Baptista locks up, but so does the Fortec car, and James Allen might spot an opportunity here to pick off 1 or 2 cars. So Vasily Romanov in the middle of these two, with Bruno Baptista a slightly better exit actually out of Rima's corner as they head down the hill. It gets steeper as they approach Rauch corner proper, as James Allen has a look at the inside there of Vasily Romanov. Thankfully he had enough brakes to stop before contact, but the Russian driver trying to overtake and defend at the same time here.
Under 3 minutes to go, and the lead gap now is 7/10 of a second. There's a big moment there for the 4th place car. Boccolacci just dropping back a little from Lando Norris, who's pushing hard now and about to, I think, get his fastest lap of the race at the end of lap 15. He does with the 1:29.107. Ahead though, the gap for the lead, 0.8 of a second now.
2.5 minutes to go. Harrison Scott 0.8, as you say, and Lando Norris is a little way off that now in third position, but Max Deforny has been getting his head down over recent laps. It's down to 0.7 of a second now between Harrison Scott and Max Deforny. A handful of laps left, 2 minutes plus the extra circuit once the cars cross the line for the first time when the clock reads 0. There's Schavs under pressure from Will Palmer. Out of turn 2 they go. Johan de Reuveler is the next car in the sequence in the Forced India liveries, and then Ferdinand Habsburg, followed by Alexei Kornev, the third of the rookie drivers. Side by side between Gabriel Aubry and, I reckon that's Sacha Fenestraz, winner of Monaco's race. So Fenestraz on the inside, Aubry on the outside, and also trying to get involved is Fenestraz's teammates. And he didn't, I don't know whether Aubry actually knew he was there, but pushed him onto the grass there. And as a result, Hugo de Sadalier had to back out of that for risk of being spun out. And that was Aubry going for a move, and de Sadalier trying to take advantage of it, but there wasn't really a gap there. Meanwhile, this was just before that incident we've watched, so Aubry did have Rima's corner ahead of the 2 Tech 1 cars, and then as they exited Rauch corner, Fenestraz got back in front. Into the final minute of the race, the leaders have just headed onto another lap, so we'll get a further 2, well, this one and one more, as the battle involving Fenestraz, Aubry and de Sadalier goes over the line. There's then this gap back to another trio with Baptista, Romanov and James Allen.
In the lead though, it's the fastest lap of his race for Harrison Scott. He's responded from the pressure behind. Gaps the chasing 33 car Max Deforny to almost a second now, with those 2 laps still to run. And in third place, Lando Norris too has responded to the pressure. 0.8 of a second the gap there, but it's just a mistake away from either of those drivers from drama in the last 2 laps of this second Formula Renault Eurocup race of the weekend here at the Red Bull Ring.
So 5 seconds on the clock. They'll cross the line this time with the clock reading 0, and therefore there'll be one more circuit for Max Deforny to try and get close to Harrison Scott, and he may have one stab at the race lead. James Allen still fighting away with Vasily Romanov for 14th position. They exit Rauch corner now. The gap's emerging there between Bruno Baptista and the Fortec car, and was that as a result of an incident at Rima's corner? Yes, over the curb there for Vasily Romanov. That's what delayed him and gave a bit more breathing space to Bruno Baptista.
Scale of the challenge on the final lap then is 0.7 of a second. The lead gap, Harrison Scott ahead of Max Deforny.
Oh, Deforny went wide though at turn 1. Deforny went wide, pushing hard, and obviously left his braking point to the very last moment, and it was too late by the looks of things. Over the sausage curb, has to rejoin. That might give for the race leader Harrison Scott enough of a break that he needs to the end of the race. There is Adrian Valles looking on pensively. This should be a good result for the team, actually. First
Absolutely.
and fifth for their two cars.
In the background, though, Lando Norris under real pressure now from Boccolacci. That's the position, if any, that's going to change of significance at the end of this race, because Boccolacci took a couple of tenths out of yesterday's race winner and the championship leader in the first sector.
Queue of three cars exiting turn 2 as well were Johan Daruvala battling away with Fernando Habsburg and Alexis Kornev. Meanwhile, this is the lead battle as Gabriel Aubry is going to be overtaken properly now by Hugo de Sadalier. De Sadalier was on the grass a couple of laps ago, but he makes it stick at Rauch corner, and Aubry, the Frenchman, loses a place. Over the rise they come then for the final time. Harrison Scott from Max Deforny at the end of sector 2. The gap was 0.6 of a second, closest as it's ever been, but he's going to run out of time, I reckon. We'll look in the background for any difference for third position. It doesn't look like we're going to get it, because Harrison Scott comes over the line. Clearly very, very ecstatic with that indeed. His win here at Red Bull Ring, followed by Max Deforny in second position, Lando Norris in third, and then Dorian Boccolacci finishing in fourth. But Norris and Boccolacci's battle very close as well, just 0.4 of a second in it at the line. Chavs holds on for fifth place ahead of Will Palmer.
Very mature race indeed from young Harrison Scott. Never headed there. Flag to flag victory, and soaked up the pressure from Max Deforny. Looked for a long while as if that might not be the case, that Deforny might reel him in as he did Lando Norris yesterday. We might have similar scenes in race 2. Wasn't to be though. Harrison Scott takes maximum points with the 22 car.
And that's his second victory of the year, having won the third event at Monza in the Eurocup Formula Renault 2 litre. So another 25 points going the way of the Chelmsford-based driver. That will help him, as we've said, in the championship. And yesterday's result gave him 12 points for a fourth place finish. Lando Norris finishing in third, you get 15 points for that. Max Deforny second again, so he's been, if anything, the most consistent performer with a couple of 18 points across the two races.
Well, that's going to put Harrison Scott to third position in the championship. Max Deforny will remain in second, but will close the gap just marginally to championship leader Lando Norris.
Slowing down lap continues, and Harrison Scott keen to make sure he gets plenty of pickup, and that's Chavs, in fact his teammate, also off the racing line into the marbles to make sure that the ride height of these cars is as high as possible. The last thing you want to do is have a good race, a decent result, and then be excluded because of some post-race infringements, as then the line of Formula Renaults works its way into the pit lane, and the top three will be separated away from the main body of the field. There in third position, Lando Norris. We'll also welcome in a moment Max Deforny finishing in second, and a win, another win for the 2016 Eurocup Formula Renault season for Harrison Scott. We'll hear from Harrison for the second time in about the last 35 minutes, in a moment or two. In fact, I'm not sure where Harrison has gone. Will Palmer has pulled in just behind in the number 14 car. He finished fifth, but he did finish as one of the top three rookies, and that'll be why he's also involved in the podium for rookie drivers. So there is the AVF by Adrian Fires livery, the bright orange, and the BRM wing mirrors. As you can see, all the cars sponsored by BRM Watchmaker. And Harrison Scott will stand on the top of the car. Big cheer from the team, as you can hear in the background. And Harrison Scott immediately into an embrace there. Very, very happy with that indeed.
Second win of the year for Harrison Scott, taking a win at Monza.
Very good, man. Very good.
Committed run from him. Another impressive run from another young man after Lando Norris's win yesterday. So a good weekend in the Formula Renault Eurocup for the British drivers.
So confirmation that Harrison Scott took the victory by less than half a second from Max Deforny for RHGP. Josef Kaufmann Racing having to make do with a third place finish and seventh for Johan Daruvala, but Lando Norris does make the podium. Dorian Boccolacci pushed him all the way though for Tech 1 Racing. Fifth place, another good result for Team AVF. That was Enric Chavs and Will Palmer finishing in 6th position despite that slight error at Remus corner. The fastest lap going to Max Deforny, a 1:28.794, although there's no extra point on offer for fastest lap. That provides you with bragging rights, I suppose. There is Max with the long hair, and still to get the helmet off is Harrison Scott. He's got to say, we've got to take the congratulation from so many different people. He's not even got round to taking the hands device off and the helmet quite yet. And the crowd here at Red Bull Ring treated to another really good race from the Eurocup Formula Renault 2 litre. They're in those grandstands, by the way, free of charge because of the Renault Sport Series support to the European Le Mans Series. So free for the rest of the year if you want to spectate in the grandstands.
Harrison, a very mature drive to win here at the Red Bull Ring, but you still have to deal with all sorts of pressure. How was it behind the wheel?
Oh yeah, it was, the car was absolutely fantastic once again. Same from qualifying really. The pace in the car was really good. Managed to get a good start, which helped really. Obviously with the long run down to turn 2, it always puts you under a bit of pressure. But no, from lap 2 onwards really, I just concentrated on making no mistakes and punching in the quick lap times. Built myself up a gap, and then Deforny was kind of catching at times, and then it's staying the same. So I was just making sure I made no mistakes, put the car in the right place and bring it home. But obviously a big thank you to the whole of AVF. They've worked so hard this weekend with the issues we had on Friday changing the car, and then obviously my sponsors, VCM Algarve Removals. It's been a great weekend.
Harrison, your second win is in as many rounds after Monza. How do you plan on extending the momentum forward over the summer break?
Yeah, obviously the last 2 races is tracks I've never been to before, so hopefully in the tracks that are coming I've been to, so hopefully I can carry on that pace, and if not, be a bit better.
Thank you very much, Harrison. Enjoy the podium.
So he'll head upstairs to get the trophy in a moment or two and spray some champagne. Let's have a look back on some of the highlights for Harrison Scott's car. For the first part of it, he didn't really have anybody to race with because Max Deforny was caught up behind Lando Norris. Then Max got free and in the end ran out of laps in order to catch the Brit. So another Formula Renault race is in the book, and as we mentioned, we go into a summer break there, but there is confirmation of the points. Lando Norris on 159 from Max Deforny for RHGP in 2nd position. Harrison Scott is up to 3rd place now on 121 points from Dorian Boccolacci in 4th on 108. Jahan Daruvala, a bit of a loser this weekend in terms of the point standings, and it's almost breaking into a 4-horse race now at this roughly halfway point in the championship, but still opportunity for people like Daruvala and Schwartzman to get involved. They just need 1 or 2 of the rounds to go pretty badly for the 4 cars ahead, I suppose.
And the change really that's occurred with that result, Johnny, is that really Lando Norris can't afford an on-point scoring finish here or a DNF for the remainder of the season. There are people within shooting distance of Lando Norris's total as a result of that. He will retain the lead after the next race no matter what happens, but it could be close if he has as bad a race as some of his competitors had this weekend.
Yeah, the model of consistency really. Lando Norris didn't finish in Monaco, but that was a tricky race in the wet. Here is a look back on the highlights though of the opening lap, and there was one of the Tech 1 cars all over the curb there, did well to hang on to that moment. And that might have been actually Boccolacci. He lost ground from 5th position down to 7th early doors. Lando Norris, though, was applying pressure to Harrison Scott. They ran 2 abreast into the 2nd turn of the lap. But Harrison Scott had the better positioning there and stayed in front. So really, you could say that the race was won in that moment. He pushed on then, allowed Lando Norris and Max Deforny to scrap away for 2nd position. And by the time Max Deforny wriggled free, he didn't quite have enough of the race left. Here was Dorian Boccolacci pulling a move on Enrique Chavs. So Tech 1 versus AVF, and into turn 2 Dorian Boccolacci confirmed 4th position there. It was a very interesting run up the order to keep our eye on Boccolacci. Sadly for Robert Schwartzman, it was retirement. Boccolacci again on the move here and giving Will Palmer no track at all on the exit of Rauch corner, running him wide into the gravel trap. Max Deforny made the move a little more easily than yesterday on Lando Norris and was then able to build a gap. One Tech 1 car able to slip up the inside of Aubry, but not 2 of them, so Hugo de Sardelia thankfully for him, didn't incur any damage after that contact and the run through the grass. And here was Harrison Scott running to the line with Max Stefani just behind. The gap at the flag, 0.456 of a second. Cue the celebration down at Team AVF. And here is the national anthem of the winning driver. So Harrison Scott taking the victory, Max Stefani in second position and Lando Norris in third. And the Renault representatives from Renault Sport Series are either side of the podium. In a moment or two, the presentation will take place. Lando Norris first of all getting his smart third place BRM trophy. Second position going the way of Max Stefani. And it's 2 second places here in Austria for Max. So still well and truly in the championship as far as the leading contenders are concerned, but it's really among the top four at the moment: Lando Norris, Stefani, Boccolacci and Harrison Scott.
Body language from Max Stefani suggests he felt he could and should have won that one.
Yeah,
tried hard,
certainly
pushed very hard indeed, but clearly not that happy with his points total from the weekend. 36 points from the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, looks a little bit dejected, which is maybe not the sort of feeling you would expect from 2 second positions, but does he feel like the championship slipping away from him for a little bit? I mean, we've still got half the season to go, but at the summer break you maybe want to be slightly better placed than that. But he has gained ground on Lando Norris, crucially. There is Adrian Valles also joining him.
No, he's not.
He's not gained ground on Lando. I thought Lando finished third.
He did. 15 points plus 25 from yesterday.
Yes.
Means 40.
Sorry,
he's lost 4 points to him.
In that race alone.
Sorry, apologies. Yes, across the weekend.
You're right.
Yes.
He has lost. Indeed so.
So that will be why we've got, how can we put it, now turned slightly downwards. There you go. That's the way he feels about it.
Harrison Scott just deciding to cover his face with his cap, which might be a good ploy actually on the podium there. Josef Kaufmann Racing, well, no stopping them at the moment. 207 points out front from R-Ace GP on 163.5 and Tech 1 Racing 152.5. We've got these sort of awkward 0.5 points because of the round at Monaco, which only ran to roughly half distance. But Josef Kaufmann Racing will take some beating from there. And R-Ace GP look to be in the box seat to try and do that over the remaining portion of the season. Harrison Scott, though, jubilant after that victory. Great to hear him after the race. It all seemed to go to plan for the Chelmsford boy, and this might also provide him a bit of a springboard into the second half of the season. Thanks for joining us then for the latest round of the Formula Renault Eurocup 2 Litre. My thanks to Graham Goodwin. From Johnny Palmer here at the Red Bull Ring in Austria, it's goodbye, and we look forward to Paul Ricard in France in a month's time.